Oh my gosh, look at you all, bright and early on a Friday, or just in the afternoon chilling on a Friday. What's up, pop quiz? Oh, I hope I didn't give it away in class on Thursday, but it's Tuesday. And I'm making you take a quiz. Oh my gosh, it's almost like I told you in the video. Should have watched the darn video. Okay, so you're going to answer some questions about this article. And gee, I hope you did well by filling out that graphic organizer, because I'm going to be walking around and making sure that you have it. And if you don't, you're going to take the quiz anyways. You got to know this history. So this article is about absolute monarchies. And this is one of the biggest influences of our country because it's something that we rejected. And this is a common theme when you are learning about the colonial history of the United States, because the colonies don't just exist in a vacuum. They are influenced by the things going on around them. And one of the things that is going on around them, if this is a government class, well, geez, might as well learn about another form of government, and it's an absolute monarchy. We don't have kings and queens in this country, and for a very good reason. It's not in our society. It's not who we come from in terms of where we're at now. But the people who created our government very much were influenced by absolute monarchy. So let me pull this article up one time. Let me just one time this article one time. Migos has a song called One Time. Meh. Absolute monarchies of the early 18th century, plus some information about the English monarchy. Oh, yeah. Let's get into it. Today, most people think of the government very differently than the people of the 17th century. In the 17th century, absolute monarchs ruled around the world in different ways, but almost always with complete control. Their circumstances were each unique to their culture, society, and religion. In the 18th century, these monarchs and systems of power were challenged and destroyed. Across the world in the 17th century, monarchs ruled with absolute authority. They were at the top of the pyramid, controlling government, society, and religion. Under these monarchs were the nobles, or aristocracy. This small percentage of elites lived relatively comfortable lives and ruled over society. In most regions and nations, the elite of society gained their power by being born into noble or royal families. In a few places, merit was used instead of blood lineage. Below the elite groups, there were small merchant and artisan classes, but the majority of people in the world worked as farmers and had little wealth or material possessions, no education, and no political power. It was nearly impossible to change your social status. The few opportunities for moving up came from joining the military or priesthood. However, few ever left their lives as peasants. There were minimal sources of energy and few types of technology, making the farming class large and the foundation of society. 90% of people had to work full time at farming, spinning thread for cloth, and doing other repetitive manual jobs to produce food, clothing, and shelter for everyone. The only power sources were human, animal, wind, and water. There was enough surplus in the society for only a small percentage of people to have more than basic food, clothing, and shelter. Today, most people believe that the rulers of countries gain their right to rule or their legitimacy through elections. In other words, the leaders need to have support from the people. But in the 17th century, that's not how the world worked. Most rulers were absolute monarchs, meaning they had complete authority over their realm. So, how did the rulers of the world legitimize their rule before democracy? The 17th century monarchs legitimized their rule in several different methods, and some monarchs used more than one way to gain the throne. Let's take a look at the different methods. Number one, divine right. Many people commonly believed that a higher power appointed most rulers. In Europe, this was the Christian God. In the Ottoman Empire and other Islamic states, it was the Muslim God. In China, it was the abstract concept of heaven or the will of the universe that legitimized the ruler. Blood lineage. Almost all rulers claimed legitimacy through blood lineage or family relations. China was the only place where it was acceptable for someone of lower birth to overthrow the existing ruler. However, even in China, the son of the emperor was considered the legitimate heir to the throne. It was only when an emperor was not doing their job that it was considered acceptable to rebel against him. Military might. Emperors also expressed their power through military control. Leaders in Europe and Asia pursued almost constant warfare to extend the borders of the empire or to gain their power. The strength of the ruler was tied to the strength of their army, helping the people. Some cultures had the concept that the ruler had to serve the people. This was most prominent in China, where a ruler was seen to have lost the mandate of heaven when the people became unhappy. Across Europe, the welfare of the people was less important, and power came mostly from the birthright of the royal family and the church. Meritocracy. Some empires used a system of promoting the most skilled people. This existed in China, the Mughal Empire, and the Ottoman Empire. Throughout most of Europe, though, nobles gained their power through family relations. Boy, it's good to be related to somebody who's in power. Although there were many cultural differences in empires of the 17th century, there were many similarities throughout the world, mainly the rule of an absolute monarch who may or may not have had the best interests of their people in mind. Now, I did edit this little article. You won't need to know anything about King Louis, the sun god, but you will need to know a little bit about the English monarchy. So let's get into it. The English monarchy, the Glorious Revolution, and the unification of Great Britain. Man, look at that. Beautiful, man. Oh, is he giving like West Side? Yes, sir. James II. What's up? James II, dog. Oh God, this is too much fun. Now look at that. Well, oopsies. The monarch in Great Britain ruled with divine right, as in other places in Europe. However, British monarchs were not absolute rulers because they had to share power with Parliament. You'll learn about that when I get back from Arizona. Sharing power with Parliament. This unusual system was laid out in the English Bill of Rights in 1689. The monarch, therefore, gained legitimacy through claims of divine right, as well as by cooperating with Parliament. The English Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights, the English version, laid down limits on the powers of the monarch and set out the rights of Parliament. Oh, look, limits on the powers of the monarch. Wow. 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 That won't be talked about ever again. No, it will be. It included the requirement for regular parliamentary meetings, free elections, and freedom of speech in Parliament. It set out certain rights of individuals, including the prohibition of cruel and unusual punishment. It reestablished the right of Protestants to have arms for their defense within the rule of law. It also included no right of taxation without Parliament's agreement. No taxation without representation. Well, that sounds very American. That is English first. All right, well, there's a little picture of the English Bill of Rights. I dare you to try to read it. I'm having too much fun reading this article to you. It's Tuesday night. It's party time, baby. It's history. What do you care? I'll get back to this. The tradition of the crown and parliament sharing power is central to British history. When King James II challenged this system, it resulted in the famous Glorious Revolution of 1688. This reaffirmed the importance of Parliament to Great Britain. The rise and fall of a Catholic king. Wow, I wonder why they didn't like the Catholic guy. What? You know this. You did your e-learning on Wednesday. James II. James II became king in February 1685 with widespread support. People generally feared and hated Catholics in England, but James II was popular. Most knew that his daughter, Mary, was a Protestant and assumed that she would take control soon. Most did not dream that James II would rule for long or that he would promote Catholicism. However, James II did promote Catholicism in England. He repealed acts that punished those practicing and supporting the religion. He also kept a large standing army to protect himself from rebellion. This troubled the majority of people who feared Catholics and a powerful monarch. James II also openly questioned the power of Parliament. He even suspended Parliament in November 1685 because they refused to repeal the anti-Catholic Test Acts. By suspending Parliament, he had to bypass existing laws and statutes. This sent the message that he was taking more power as king. Then, in 1688, dissent and unrest turned into a political crisis. Later that same year, James II had a son, James Francis. Those that hoped for his Protestant daughter Mary to take control after his death now believed his son would inherit the throne as a Catholic. The majority Protestant population was increasingly turning against James II. 7 bishops wrote religious decrees against his rule. The bishops were arrested, then later acquitted or released. When it became clear that the bishops would not be punished for speaking out against James II, more people felt they could speak out against him. The result was widespread anti-Catholic riots and a movement to remove James II from power. The Glorious Revolution. Get out of the cat. The Glorious Revolution. William and Mary. In 1677, James II's Protestant daughter, Mary, married William of Orange, the ruler of the Dutch Republic. William and Mary were both Protestants, the preferred religion of the majority of people in England at the time. Mary was also the heir to James II's throne until his son, James Francis, was born. This sounds like a TV show, and it probably eventually will be, or if it hasn't been done yet, it will. Oh, Kitty loves absolute monarchies. With their plans of succession under threat, William and Mary considered invading. Only after they were invited by members of the English political class to invade did they make the decision to do so. They hoped that as soon as they started the invasion, James II's army would betray him and submit to their invading army. Prince William's fleet landed on the 5th of November. His plan worked. As William advanced on London, the commanding officers of King James II's army declared support for William of Orange. Disgraced, James went into exile in December. Because it was nearly bloodless, it became known as the Glorious Revolution. A convention parliament met in April 1689, making William and Mary joint monarchs of England. The Glorious Revolution ended a century of political dispute by confirming the superiority of Parliament over the crown, a principle established in the 1689 Bill of Rights. It also reaffirmed anti Catholic sentiment because laws remained that restricted the practice of the faith. Again, keep that sentence in mind. It was very taboo for you to be Catholic. And you would not be shocked to know that one of the British colonies established was, in fact, a Catholic colony. That Catholic, Maryland. So, which is weird because I'm pretty sure it talks about Mary being a Catholic or a Protestant. So, odd there. Though Great Britain ruled with a monarch, the rule wasn't absolute. James II tested this by claiming more authority and stripping Parliament of its influence, but his reign came to a quick end. So, you've read this article. You'll answer some questions on this article, and there will be some questions based on your general knowledge of what you've taken in this week. You'll have one opportunity to take this. There will be a timed option for you. So if you decide not to submit it in class, thankfully Canvas will submit it for you. And there you go. How about that? Enjoy your weekend. I guess you probably already know that I'm taking off for Arizona next Monday. I do believe the schedule goes a little something like this. One, on Monday, you will be doing a current event on your own. There should be an article or a CNN 10 post there. Now, how it relates to class, I would probably just use Unit 6 because this has been a bunch of history this week. Now, what you can do is if there's anything in the news about like checking the power of something, like, maybe President Biden does something and then Congress responds back, or maybe Congress wants to do something and President Biden checks him back. Maybe there's a Supreme Court ruling, in which case the Supreme Court is a great check on government power. On Tuesday, you'll be right on. Oh, no. Tuesday is high school scheduling day. Pretty much come to class. The high school guidance counselors are going to talk to you about high school scheduling. I'll post the essay that I want you to read or to write on Tuesday. So you got that. And then on Thursday, you will be reading an article and answering some questions about a war. Thankfully, I won't be there to teach it because I don't like teaching war. But anyways, Monday, current event. Tuesday, high school schedule. Wednesday, community foundation essay. Short and sweet little guy. Thursday, 7 Years War. And then when we get back, we'll dip into some notes. Busy week next week for you. Busy week for me. So let's get it. Good luck on this quiz. I'm sure by now I will tell you the code. Yeah. Good luck, kiddos. And if I don't say it when I leave, I love you. And I'll see you next week or Friday. Yeah. So, yeah. Have a good one. Happy Friday. Quiz. Woo. Yee.